Welcome back to the nimrodjaune podcast. I'm your host, Shaka Wally, and welcome back. Shout out to all my Apple Podcasts listeners, Spotify listeners. Shout out to all of y'all. It is 8 in the morning, so I'm starting my day off with a podcast. Just shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to all the support on the last podcast and the most recent videos I've posted. Shout out to all of y'all. And from that, let's just jump right into it, right? So, I watched this video of this John Basquiat interview where the interviewer asked him about anger, and if you could explain, I'll put the video on screen.
Is there any anger in you? Any anger in your
Of course there is. Yeah, of course there is.
Talk about that. Tell me what the anger is. What are you angry about?
I don't remember.
A lot of us have a mental image of people, or the people we are friends with or associate with in our heads, and when they are not matching that mental image of who we think they are, we tend to feel like they're acting weird, or acting out of the ordinary, when in fact they're acting to be who they actually are. They're not acting like anybody different. They're just acting like who we always thought they weren't, which is themselves. And I want to tweak it just a tad bit. But basically, you know the volatility of life. You know that life has a way of captivating us in such a very unalarming, making us draw our guard down just in a very seductive way. But you know life is going to do what it wants at the end of the day. There's no control in life. It's going to do what it wants to do, and then after that, it lets it rock. You know how it is, so why do you get mad at situations? Why do you feel like it's only happening to you? Why do you feel this way? And I say this because we always use emotional justification for whatever we're going through. You may say, oh, maybe life hates me when somebody you love dies, or somebody who we are very close with passes away. You're like, man, life hates me. And I don't think that's the case. I don't. But I know I'm saying this from a point of view of never losing anybody, because I know when it's my turn from that happening and it's my turn to lose a loved one, every video I've made about, just mental preparation, it sounds great. It sounds amazing, in fact. But I know I'm not going to. It's all going to go out the window. Because A.J. Brown, football player, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles, he said he lost his mom at 27, or somewhere in his mid to late 20s. And I'm like, damn, bro. I can't imagine having to grow as a person in my mid to late 20s. By the time you're just getting out of college, trying to find your footing through life. So I can't imagine having to do that and then boom, go develop my entire life without the person that basically gave me life, or some people lose their parents at 22. I'm like, damn. But at the end of the day, it's like, I know how life is. I know how destructive it is. I know how charming it can be, and I know how just very driven it can be at times. So I never really understand why I get so like upset when things bother me in life. Because if I understand that, okay, people are gonna get me mad, I understand that there's not a lot of smart people in this world. If I understand that some things are not gonna go my way, there should be no reason for me to get mad. Like, there should be not really a lot of instances in life where you're getting mad. But as I've grown, it's like, no, for some reason, people not understanding, like, very basic common sense and only seeing it from their point of view gets me so irate for some reason. The video that you guys will be seeing or have already seen on Wednesday, that's an example of me getting mad, or at the very least aggravated at something that triggered me. And it might have came from my childhood, or where I've just, when I was a kid, I used to just lash out, where I would just do these things when I would get mad. So now when I get mad, I'm just reversing back to them. Speaking of things about going back to your childhood, a lot of us do these things that we say are not us, or that wasn't me, right? And I just want to, that's not true. I learned this from a human nature book some time ago, but no action is done without the brain giving it forethought. Meaning, if somebody cheated on you, that was a planned action. That it went through their brain. I'm going to go through with this. No one got to have a partner. They understood it, but still did it. That's why cheating is never an accident. Someone stealing money from you, that was a conscious decision of theirs. Yeah, I'm going to hold this money and just leave with it. That's a conscious decision made in their brain. There's so much stuff that we do that goes back to our childhood. It's actually so insane. A lot of the emotions within us, a lot of things that we do, if we traced it back, goes all the way back to our childhood. I mean, the reason why you're okay being alone was you've had to develop an exterior shell of being alone, because as a kid you always did things alone. The reason why you're okay not receiving gifts was because as a child you never really received gifts. So because of that, you're like, I don't really care about receiving gifts or not. I don't. There's just certain things that as we grow up we understand, or we are supposed to understand, but we never end up. Our shadow work needs to be done. A lot of us have shadows, including me, that is being suppressed or not being properly attentive, or we're not properly attentive about, because we have not done the due diligence to really understand the things that we do. I think I might find a source for like a lot of the things I do, but I know there's more work to be done, and I know I could do a better job of finding these things. But because I came up with this way of seeing our emotions. I say, think of your emotions as a person. You could think of each emotion you have as a different person, or just a conglomeration of them as one. I mean, the amalgamation of them as one, right? And think of it as you were a kid, you did not have the best relationship with it. I mean, you guys were still fairly new to each other. When we're born, we signed a binding contract with our emotions. Meaning, till death do us part, we are gonna be together regardless of anything. Meaning, through sickness and in health, you and your emotions will be together forever. We signed that contract when we were born, right? So, when you're a kid, you and your emotions are not in the best of conversations. So, your emotions might take advantage of you sometimes, and where you could have just calmed down, you might act irrationally out of something you not understand. A lot of us act out of emotion when we're not understanding what's actually going on. You know what I'm trying to say? We trying to kind of spurt out, or we kind of bleed out just, I want to say, ignorance, and masking it as anger. When you're not angry about what's going on, you're angry because you don't know. And because you don't know, that's the reason of your anger. You know what I'm trying to say? That's another thing that we need to work on. But back to my example. As we grow older, we're supposed to build a better relationship. Meaning, as you reach teenagehood, you understand that, okay, me and my emotions may still get the best of me sometimes, but I'm not keeping it at bay. I'm not trying to suppress it. I'm allowing it to show it who it is. Sometimes it may get out of hand, but for the most part, it's within my reach. And as we grow older and older and older, we're supposed to have an understood relationship with our emotions. Meaning, I understand my emotions better. I understand that, you know what, at certain things I get angry, and I can quickly identify these things so I can help. Let's say I have a partner, I can tell them, like, you know, sometimes when I go through certain things, I act a little out of character, or I act out of emotion. I try my best to work on it, but there might be a case where I do these things. I wanted to let you know beforehand, right? That's how security and mature we should be with our emotions. But it's like, that's almost never how it actually happens. We never actually, for a lot of us, never actually grow and mature with our emotions. It's like we grow older, so by age we're older, but emotionally we're the exact same that we were as a child. And I think it's because of this encouraged culture. And what I mean by that is, it's encouraged to act a certain way in certain sectors of the internet. Whatever you are constantly being shows what sector of the internet you are on. And there is an encouraged behavior in every sector of the internet, right? And in your sector of the internet, it encourages this certain behavior. And because it encourages a certain behavior, it can either lead to the benefit of you growing maturely, and that is growing older, and your emotions grow as well, so you guys are growing, having a one-to-one relationship. Or you're growing older, but your emotions just not growing at all. It's actually stagnated, like it was, and then it just coasted. And an example of it growing but coasting is, like, an example for me is crashing out. I've made videos about how crashing out is very stupid and it's very emotional. But that's a prime example of that's not how you're supposed to react. And don't get me wrong, in certain areas, in certain situations, it makes sense to crash out. It makes sense to get mad and show your anger. It makes sense to do that or do something disastrously if it's really up to them, right? But a lot of things in life are not worth doing that. Disrespect, there's only a certain level of disrespect you can take, but that level of disrespect has to be high, because you cannot crash out every time somebody calls you out of your name, or sometimes everybody just does not agree with you. That cannot be your way of doing things. Your emotions you cannot let your emotions take control at the age of 25. You cannot let your emotions be the driver for your life at the age of 25. That's ridiculous. And while I was talking, I just thought of an example that somebody told me, like, in basketball, if you're a great, like, one-on-one player, you're normally great at doing things alone, as compared to somebody who's, like, not that great of a one-on-one player, but a great team player, as in, like, doing things alone. Compared to the first part, yeah, you can do things alone. You're great at doing things alone. You can hoop, you can do all these things, right? But when it comes time to be put in a team game, you don't do all too well, because you're not that used to being around or working on the same accord as people, as compared to the other person who's better at working on an accord on people and not that great at doing things alone. If there was any example of the two, I would probably be the first part. I remember in 4th grade, this is like a very vivid memory for some reason. Towards the top right of my class, that's where my seats were. It was right next to the teacher's desk, and she was like, "Who do you want to work with?" And I'm like, "Do you want to work with the guy's name was Alexander, or do you want to work alone?" I told her, "I want to work alone." Because as a kid, I already knew in my brain I work better alone. I already knew it. I already knew that I'm great being alone. I always knew it. So why would I work with a group when I can just do this alone? I don't need a group. I can figure this out on my own. And as I got older, I realized this is very destructive, because yeah, you can do things alone, but you can't do everything alone. Not everything can be done alone. You know what I'm trying to say? You can't wake up and just live your entire life alone. At some point, you're going to need to depend on somebody. You're going to need somebody in your corner to help you. You're going to need certain people to want to have your best interest at heart. You know what I'm trying to say? And I don't have trust issues. I've never ever really developed trust issues ever. And this ties back to my whole point about emotions being justification for something, because my thought process of I work better alone is a justification for why I don't want to work in a group setting. Me thinking that I'm more efficient alone when it's just my pure unadulterated thoughts and I don't have to run it by anybody. My thinking of that's a better way for me to do or go about something is the reason why as I got older, I struggled with making connections. Like, I probably said this, but my 10th grade year was probably my loneliest year. And that was the year where I did not go out my way. I never really went out my way, but where I really just stayed reclusive and I just did me. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything that was not me. And because of that, I just naturally blended in to the alone, like, schema, but I always, but I never felt lonely during it because I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was going, and I guess that's justified, but that's not how it's always gonna be. You're not always gonna find your emotions to be justified, and that's okay. Even though I still do think emotions justification for how we are. Sometimes the way you act may not be justified, but you're satisfied with the result. Like, let's say, right, your girlfriend cheats on you, right, and you cheat back. You may think, some people may tell you that your emotions was not justified because if somebody just cheats on you, you just leave. But you feel satisfied knowing, okay, she did that to me, I did that back to her, we're one-on-one, now what? Which is a very childish mentality to have, by the way. Don't do that. If someone cheats on you, leave. But it's like, you may not feel, people may tell you, oh yeah, bro, that's not justified, bro, but you feel satisfied in your answer. Like, I don't care what y'all think. This makes sense to me. And then, so it's like, it's tricky trying to navigate this world of emotion alone. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you need somebody to help you really, I want to say realign, but really show you what you need to get done. And what I mean by that is, you need somebody that you can openly share with and tell things to, so they can break down what you need. Some people don't need it. It would actually make things be faster if you did, but they're already doing it alone, so they never really needed nobody. But that topic for another day. But yeah, I just want to wrap the podcast up saying your emotions are justification for something. Even when your emotions are not justification for something, you need to be satisfied with the outcome. That's the Nimrodjaune podcast. I'm your host, Jack Kadawale. Shout out to our Apple Podcasts or Spotify listeners. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Peace.